I knew the end result way ahead of time. And it doesn't hurt him in any way, shape, or form, because he wanted us to take it over. And now we have. So have the end goal in mind and then work towards it. It might not be a 30-minute conversation. It might be 3 years.
All right, guys, here we go now. It is time to unlock more doors to deals. We're real estate investors here. We're real estate agents here, and we all have one thing in common. We believe that we can. We can live the life of our purpose. We can create financial freedom. We can build a better life for those that we love, and we can live the life of our dreams. I don't care if you're trying to do your first deal or your 500th this year. You can get to the next level, and we're here to help. Welcome to Doors to Deals. I'm your host and founder, Jim Manning. Today's episode can be found on doorstodeals.com/020. And it's all about how to negotiate deals like a pro with my good friend, Derek Dombeck. I had an absolute blast talking with Derek. He's been in the industry for over 15 years and became a negotiation expert out of necessity. He had a business that was falling apart in 2007, and it helped him develop like just a mad skill set at negotiating deals. So I learned all sorts of valuable tools on this call, like, what you should be doing in your first 2 minutes of every phone call, a great elevator pitch when you're first talking to homeowners. And then we even end the call with a couple of Derek's favorite closes that I thought were fantastic as well. Then finally, at the very, very end of this call, we have a bonus Q&A section that our Three Doors Network members that actually have access to these calls live did. They had a few questions for Derek, and normally we wouldn't include that on our podcast here, but I thought for this particular one, why don't we just kind of share it so you can kind of get a good feeling for what some of our for what some of our network partners have access to. So, all right, guys, let's get rolling on this interview. All right, guys. So today we have Derek Dombeck here, and Derek is a friend of mine. We're actually in the same mastermind group together. So it's funny because we have like intimate conversations, 3 times a year, and then we kind of live in different states. So we kind of go about our own business, and then we kind of reconnect again. So even though we don't talk like every week or anything, I do consider him a close friend of mine. And so I'm really excited because this guy is valuable. Like, he has so much, he's just such a wealth of knowledge, and him and his business partner are actually the two people that we called when we were looking into funding and doing some hard money lending for people in our network. And like, they were literally the first two people we called, and so we really appreciate them. We appreciate the relationship that we have. And Derek, welcome, man. I'm excited to have you, dude.
Well, thanks for having me, Jim. I really appreciate the invite. And to start off with, I don't know how many we have on the call, but I really like interactive conversations. So if people have questions, just put them in the chat. And Jim, I'm probably not going to watch the chat so much, but if you see questions that people have, hit me with them, because it makes for a lot more fun. And I want everybody to get as much value out of this as they can.
Yeah. Hey,
everybody.
How you doing?
Thanks.
So absolutely, we can definitely do that. And ask away on the questions. Again, Derek's a wealth of knowledge, guys. And when we were preparing for this, one of the things we discussed was that Derek has a kind of unique genius on putting together deals and structuring deals. And so we're going to talk about that here in the second half, or maybe even more than the second half. But first, I really kind of wanted to dive into like your story, Derek, and kind of where you come from, and what your background is. So how many years have you been in real estate so far?
So my wife and I, we live in Wisconsin, and I feel like that's fairly important because we don't have a lot of large markets around us. Like St. Louis for you guys is pretty broad, and you can go to a lot of different types of neighborhoods. Most of our markets that we work in are 50,000 to 100,000 people, and we work about a 200-mile area diameter. And I started in 2003, and with my wife and I, initially, just like anyone else, We went, took some trainings, went to some seminars. We were taught to buy and hold property, and that's what we did. And we built up a fairly nice portfolio in our first 3 years in the business, and then 2007 hit. And when 2007 hit, we had a fair amount of rental properties in Wisconsin, but we had about 8 properties in Florida that we had developed and built. And I remember hearing somebody, and I don't know who it was, but one of my business trips to Florida, somebody said when the pizza delivery boy is building a spec home, it's probably time to get out. And I should have took that seriously. And you don't know what you don't know. At the time, everything we did was bank financed. And 2007 hit, the markets crashed. We got caught with our pants down, and we lost it all. But at that time, I say lost it all, but we did everything we could to negotiate with our lenders, which were all banks. And the stuff in Florida, I ended up short selling all of it. It took 3 years. I mean, and it took a lot of time and stress to get through it. But my main goal down there was to not harm anybody as much as possible. I mean, I believe that when you sign on the dotted line, you are responsible for those obligations. So when we were dealing with the banks, a lot of the banks had walked the people out of the door that I worked with. And I don't know if any of your people were in real estate in 2007, but they were literally walking in and clearing them out. And any presidents, vice presidents that were on staff were escorted out the door with a box of their personal belongings, never to be seen again. So you were now trying to talk with a perfect stranger, and you were just a file, and they don't really care because there were thousands and thousands of files, and you're just a nobody. So I didn't realize it, Jim, at the time that I was getting better and better at negotiating because I wasn't consciously thinking about it. So that'll come later in my story. But we were able to go in. All of our local stuff was funded by small community banks. And so I don't know, 12, 15 properties, we'll call it. So I remember walking into my local community bank that had the majority of my portfolio, and I asked them to bring in my loan officer, the president of the bank, and any committee members that were willing to sit in. And we sat at the conference table and we mapped out a plan of how I was going to, first of all, not miss any payments, which I never did to my local banks, and figure out a way to keep working together moving forward. And they were willing to do that, which was amazing, but yet I was doing something different than everybody else at the time. Everybody else was hiding and avoiding the problem. And I just feel like you hit it head on. Maybe they'll work with you, maybe they won't. But if I don't go in there and man up and talk to them, there's a guarantee they won't work with me. So even after my credit was destroyed and my portfolio was at about $4 million at the beginning of 2007. And from a net worth standpoint, it went down to under $1 million in 6 months. And that was primarily because the bulk of my value on my asset, my balance sheet, was that Florida real estate. And the scary part, and I see this happening time and time again today in this market, the scary part is it was tied to my house. Like I had a HELOC on my house. I was using that for down payments on construction loans. We were building new construction. So until we got a certificate of occupancy and, could go into a long-term fixed rate financing, my home was at risk. And it's one of my pet peeves right now, Jim. I spend a fair amount of time on Bigger Pockets answering questions or other, forums or, the RIA that I run or wherever. And I see people using their homes and getting HELOCs like it's a no risk thing. And it scares the crap out of me because I lived it. And fortunately, I did not lose my home. We were able to work it all out. But I say all of this to show you guys that, we built it up and we lost it all. And it was a blessing in disguise. Again, I didn't feel that way for many, many, many years. But when I started to think back on the events that happened over a 3-year period of time from 2007 until 2010, because that's how long it took to clean that mess up, I got really, really good at talking to people. And I talked to them in a different way than anybody else. Because back then, everybody wanted to blame somebody. Nobody wanted to take responsibility for their actions. It was the appraiser that gave them a fraudulent appraisal. It was the mortgage broker that took advantage of them. It was the attorney, whatever, right? I went at it in a different way, taking full responsibility and saying, what do we need to do to move forward? But I started taking notes. Like I'd go into an interaction and I'd start taking notes of what I said, after the interaction was done. I'd think back, what did I say? How did I say it? And, what was my tone and my voice? Did I kind of mimic them? If I was dealing with somebody that talked with their hands a lot, did I talk with my hands a lot? Those types of things. And I had never read any books or studied anything on sales or negotiation to that point. So it was kind of natural, but I didn't do it intentionally. So moving forward, Jim, when it got to 2010, I took on business partners, and I never stopped. At that point, I was out of the rental business and into the flipping business because we needed short-term cash. We needed to pay off debts, and so we started flipping a lot of properties.
Tell you what, Derek, let me slow you down here really quick.
Sure.
There was a point in your story where I actually got goosebumps, and I almost paused you then, but it was so good. I just wanted to kind of like let you keep going. So let's go back. I want to talk more about, you made a comment, you said everyone else was kind of hiding and I took full responsibility on this, okay? And the reason why I want to really relay this to everybody listening is this is one of the single most important things as an entrepreneur you can possibly do, okay? Think about this, guys. If you're getting into real estate, there's people that are making millions and millions of dollars. If you're not making the income that you want, there's only one person who's responsible for that. It's not the market. It's not Derek. It's not Jim. It's not anything else. It's the guy in the mirror. It's you. So if you can take full responsibility for your life, full responsibility for where you're at, and look at it honestly and openly. And you may not like everything that you see in the mirror, right? You may not like everything, but if you can do that, what happens is that you get into an empowered mode that few people ever get to, because people want to point the finger and blame things. And then what happens is when you don't have control and you aren't in that powerful position, and you're blaming other things, you get stuck. And you can be stuck. I've seen people stuck, people that I love more than anybody that have had this problem, I've seen stuck for over 20 years because of not being able to do this. So anyway, so I wanted to slow you down there because like this is literally one of the things that us as humans struggle with. And understanding this is so important because when you negotiate with people, when you're trying to help motivated sellers, there's a lot of them that are in this stuck position too, that are going through this. And sometimes it's more of like a counselor trying to help people kind of sift through their head to get them unstuck to sell their property because that's what they need to do, right? So anyway, I didn't mean to quite go on that tangent that I did, but that's so important, man. And how did you get to that mindset? Were you blaming the conditions at any point? I know this was over 10 years ago, but how did you kind of take control in a scenario like that was just really difficult?
So your head is going to mess with you in any bad times, right? And to get a little bit personal, at the same time, my wife and I had challenges having kids. So not only our first child that we had, we were able to have through in vitro. which was expensive, and then it didn't work again. And the first child we had, we were making money hand over fist. It was no big deal. Like, we stroked a check, $40,000, $50,000, have a baby. Now we want to grow our family. We're in our mid 30s at the time, and there's not a bank in the world that'll touch me. And I'm at a point where we've already committed to adopt my second child. We've already committed a fair amount of money, and we've been matched with my son, who was in China. And this was kind of my low point. And I needed $34,000 within 2 months' time to go get my son from China that we've already accepted and basically fallen in love with. And I had absolutely no banking possibilities whatsoever. And that was my low point. And that was the point where you either quit or you come out swinging. And I just don't believe you actually lose in life unless you quit trying. So I started just talking to people and figuring out, I had assets, I just wasn't bankable. And so I literally paid for the adoption of my second child with a private investor. And I pledged some collateral, and I got a guy to give me $34,000 at 10% interest. And that's how I paid for my son. And it was at this turning point that I started to realize how I interacted with people and what I said and how I said it was very important. And I feel like when you go to a seminar or you're listening to a guru or whatever, they're always telling you to start out as a wholesaler, be a landlord, flip houses. Nobody ever teaches or talks about negotiating or the proper way to talk to somebody. And I feel like, and it's not a sexy topic, so it doesn't sell. Right? I mean, if I go to your audience and say, hey, I'll teach you how to make $10,000 a month wholesaling houses, that's sexy. Anybody can sell that. If I go to your audience and say, hey, I'll charge you $20,000 and I'll teach you how to negotiate, people are like, nah, I already know what I'm doing. You just ask questions, because that's the simple answer. Everyone says, just ask questions.
And to tie into what we talked about earlier with the taking full responsibility, what I've seen so many people do is they buy that $10,000 wholesaler course. They start to take it. Maybe they generate a lead or two from it. And then something happens in their life. They kind of stop doing it, and the course stuck, or something else stuck. They if you can't get over that you can't get that to that mindset shift that I'm going to take full ownership and I am fully in control of my destiny. If you can't get there, doesn't matter how good the course is, doesn't matter how much you learn online for free, doesn't, that's going to be a mindset that's going to prevent you from getting to where you need to go.
And then the other part of it, Jim, that comes in is the fear, right? What happens if I actually start marketing and the phone rings, or, and I get an email, or somebody wants to sell me something? The fear kicks in. And so at that point, and we're talking around 2010, 2011, I started looking for and seeking out any book, audio, seminar, anything I could find on sales or negotiating. And what I found was a lot of crap. Like there's a lot of the old school used car salesman gimmick type of sales books out there, but there really wasn't a lot that fell into my style. And everybody has a style. Me personally, I like to laugh and joke and keep things as lighthearted as possible in any interaction, whether it's, just hanging out at our mastermind. Jim may or may not have seen me do some silly stuff. It happens. But if you're on the phone or you're across the kitchen table from a seller or a buyer, and you can be laughing and joking the whole time and keep it lighthearted, it's a totally different interaction than what normally happens with realtors, and people are trying to keep buyers and sellers apart, and it's supposed to be this harsh, head-to-head fight, and somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. And that's what the sales books were teaching me that I could find.
Interesting thing is I used to watch Shark Tank a lot, and I loved watching it because of seeing these billionaires and how they think and how they're negotiating. And I think it's Barbara, I forget her last name, the real estate, the older real estate
Cochran.
Cochran. She said, like, she was talking about one of the people that was promoting a product or their company. And she said, I like you because you're having fun, and the people that have the most fun make the most money.
Mm-hmm.
That's always stuck with me. Like this doesn't have to be, like, success doesn't have to be this big thing that you get all intense about and like have to do these things. Like you can have fun at the same time too.
Right.
I love that. So, okay. So you're talking about, so you've been studying all these books and kind of trying to find your way into what's going on. So let's kind of continue there.
So what I kind of figured out over time, and it was just taking little pieces of this book or pieces of that audio, and I found my style. And my style is built around something that's kind of the opposite of everybody else. I try and use honesty all the time and actually care about the other person. Doesn't that seem a little bit silly? But in this day and age, everybody is so worried about themselves. I got to get a great deal. I got to get the house for this price. I got to sell it for that price. It's always I. When I interact with a seller or a buyer or an attorney or a banker or a title company or a contractor or my kids or my spouse, everybody that we talk to all day long is a negotiation. Trying to get your kids to go to bed on time is a negotiation. Everything is. And when you change your mindset to that and you figure out that being in sales is not a bad thing, right? I think the definition of sales that most people have, they picture a used car salesman and being sneaky and tricky. The real definition of sales is just trying to show the other party or lead the other party to come to the same conclusion or the same belief that as you have, right? So if I'm a minister or a pastor and I'm preaching the gospel, I'm a salesman, right? A preacher is a salesman. They're trying to convince the congregation to believe in what they're preaching. So when I'm in any interaction, I'm proud to be a salesperson because I know that I'm leading them to a preconceived conclusion that I already have. I just need to get them to agree with me and do it so they believe that they got there on their own. Okay.
So I'm going to add to that, guys. Like I don't know if everybody has this, but it sounds like you dealt with it too, Derek. I had a lot of head trash around that kind of slicky, car salesman image that I grew up in a middle-class family. Mom was a teacher, dad was in IT, and that's kind of I don't know if I got it from my family or wherever, right? It took me literally 4 or 5 years to admit that I was in sales in this industry. Even though, like, when you get your real estate license, it says a real estate salesperson. Like, that's the name of the license. And I was just so negative towards it. And then I had a light bulb moment that a salesperson, when you look and research into consultative selling, it's all about asking questions and figuring out what their pain points are and figuring out what their needs are, and then helping them get there. Mm-hmm. Like you're not gonna like to be a honest and a truthful salesperson that's taking care of people. Like, you're not gonna sell them something that they don't need or want. That's not the point. The point is they have some stuff going on in their head and they're trying to figure out what to do. Help them think through it and then provide the solution of what they really should do, right? So,
and what you just said, Jim, is important, because if you are an ethical and moral person, you should not try to sell somebody something that they don't need or shouldn't have. And it's the same thing. If I'm buying a house from somebody and I'm not their best solution, I will tell them I'm not your best solution. I am an option for you, but I'm not the best option at this time. And I don't know anyone else that does that, right? But it's unethical of me to take advantage of somebody's bad situation. I bought a house from a woman 3-4 years ago, and it was on the market, listed on the MLS for less than a week. And I bought it for $32,000. She had it listed at $64,000. And at the closing table, she was a funny old gal, and we like to laugh and joke a little bit, right? And she said, Derek, I would have took less. And I said, I know you would have, and I know I could have convinced you to do it, but that was not the right thing. I hit the profit margin that I need for my company, and that's why I gave you what I gave you, right? I could have raped her and pillaged her for another 10 grand. Easy. It's not the right thing to do all the time, or ever. But that's, again, I think that's a mindset shift.
Well, and it becomes difficult because there may be deals that you make more money, more profit than you think, and that's okay too, because there's unknowns and there's market conditions, and
right.
Maybe you just sold it for 10 grand more than you thought you would, or and that's okay too. The key is to be there. So I want to point something out, guys, on Derek and his character, and it's something that I've been more aware of the older that I get. Is if you circle back to the challenges that he had, I'm looking through my notes here. If you circle back the challenges that he had, like with all the short sales and the conversations that he had to have, and when he got out from underneath the rock that he wanted to crawl, or the corner that he wanted to kind of crawl into, and he got in the real world, and he said, hey, well, I take these payments seriously, and he went to the lenders and he talked to them and found a way to make his payments and found a way to keep it going. What happens when you get that congruent with your thoughts, words, and then your actions, it's hard to explain, but you get an energy, and there's an authority to when you say things to people, that if you're not that person, if Derek's not that person, he's not going to be able to say things the way he can. And when you get congruent like that, and when Derek sits in front of a homeowner, he carries that congruency and that confidence and that intention into that appointment, and they can feel that. A homeowner they may not be able to verbalize it, but they intuitively know, is this person out for him, or are they out for me and my best interest? And when you have that energy and you can build that rapport, that is a big deal, guys. It's a big deal.
And to build on that, when you're sitting across the kitchen table from somebody and you can honestly say, I know how you feel, I have been there. Now, I don't open up and tell every homeowner that I've had foreclosures, but if I'm dealing with somebody that, they're in default, they're losing their home, and depending on what stage they're in, because there's sadness, there's, you're pissed off, it's the bank's fault, you're being taken advantage of, then there's depression. So once I figure out where they're at, I've been through all that. So I can literally sit there and look at them eye to eye and say, I know how you feel. This is what you're going to feel next. This is how I can help you avoid that. And they know I'm not lying, because I'm not. Now, if you haven't been through those tough times, don't voluntarily go and lose your house just so you can figure out how that feels, because that sucks. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with using somebody else's story. And I use stories all the time in my negotiations. So to give you a quick example, if I'm on the phone with somebody, and I do almost everything on the phone because we work such a large area, before I actually go and meet a homeowner face to face, I'm 90% sure that deal's coming together. So I do all of this that I'm telling you over the phone to figure out if it's worth my time to go and drive that far. But I want to make sure that homeowner knows that, number one, they've got multiple options with us. Number two, they're not going to leave that phone call without something of value, even if it's just me referring them to a contractor that could help them, or referring them to a realtor that could help them, or referring them to a credit repair specialist. Somehow, some way, I want to leave value with every interaction I have. And over time, it makes you feel good, but it also pays dividends. Let's be honest. You help people, eventually it'll circle back around. Okay. But I use stories to get people comfortable, because I haven't seen their house, right? So Jim, if you're trying to sell me a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Wisconsin, that's $150,000 price point for an after repair value. That's our median home in my markets I work. If I tell you, Jim, I only pay 65% of after repair value minus repairs, which is my numbers. A lot of times that's going to come across as really negative. But if I say, Jim, I just bought a house in your neighborhood and it needed about the same repairs as you have, based on what you just told me, and we bought that house for roughly $80,000, does that seem like something you would consider? I talked about a totally different house it's not offensive to them, right? It's soft. And if they say, oh my God, I could never accept that amount of money, great. The conversation moves on. But if I do it the other way and I say, well, Jim, you need a kitchen, you need a deck, you need a roof, and it's going to be $20,000 in repairs, I can only give you, $80,000 for your house, they get defensive sooner. Okay.
So could you replace this? I'm just kind of spitballing here, but even if you're brand new and have never done a deal, you could say, hey, I looked and I saw another house that was bought in your neighborhood.
Right.
It's in a similar condition as yours, that was bought for roughly $80,000. Is that something?
Absolutely. Don't ever lie, and don't get caught making something up. And you guys could literally say, my colleague Jim, my friend Jim, my buddy Jim, whatever, you guys know Jim. My buddy Jim bought a house in this neighborhood, and I was just talking to him a week ago, and this was the numbers that he had, right? So I always, honestly, I throw my business partner under the bus all the time, and he's totally fine with it. But I will literally say, my business partner deals with that part of our business. I don't necessarily know the answer, so I don't want to give you the wrong information. Can I get back to you? Okay. Even if I know the answer, sometimes that's the right thing to do. You backpedal a little bit. You create a little bit of, dangle the carrot and then pull the carrot away. It's just another strategy. But just don't ever lie to them. And when we start talking about some of our creative deal structures, we're really good at them now, but at a certain point in time, I had never done a subject to purchase. I had never done an option. So the first time I talked somebody into that, I know I had to go out and get with my network and figure out the exact paperwork and figure out all the ins and outs. So instead of saying to a seller, I want to option your property from you, and I'm going to have my attorney get a hold of you and go through all the specifics, I don't want it to be that harsh, right? So I simply, we work out the deal and say, listen, I'll talk with my colleague. He does this all the time. We'll get the paperwork together. I'll bring it over for your review. Just keep it soft, keep it lighthearted. That makes sense, Jim?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, so let's kind of go if you don't mind, can we dig deep on kind of the sales process that you go into and kind of on each step. So you do whatever lead generation, direct mail, you name it. You get the phone call lead that comes through, and then what happens next?
Hey guys, so just a heads up, I went ahead and told my show producer to leave in our Q&A after this call was over. Our calls are all recorded live for our Three Doors Network members, and we typically leave time for a Q&A after them. It's an incredibly powerful way to be able to ask questions to subject matter experts like Derek, and it's really important because you're going to ask questions that will directly impact you and your business and help you out with exactly where you're at. So this is just one of the many network member benefits that we have if you become one of our network partners. For more information, go to doorstodeals.com/invest to learn more about how to become a member.
So you do whatever lead generation, direct mail, you name it. You get the phone call lead that comes through, and then what happens next?
Okay, so typically, again, I'm going to get on the phone with them, and there's a few things I try and figure out within the first 2 minutes on any conversation, whether it's on the phone or in person. Okay, I want to figure out what personality type I'm dealing with, and there's three main personality types. If somebody is really blunt and to the point, like me, it's considered a driver. Okay, typically a driver will make a quick decision, doesn't need all the details. Um, you can tell they're in a hurry, and you can tell that pretty easily on the phone after you're consciously thinking about it. Everything I'm talking to you guys about today is you have to consciously think about this. I would even suggest you record your phone calls, record your kitchen table conversations if you can. I mean, every phone has a recording mechanism on it. Before you walk in the house, hit record, put it in your pocket, record that entire interaction, then go home and study it. What worked? What didn't work? This is what I did for years, guys. And you make notes, okay? So if they're a driver, and that's what I am, I interact with them easier, okay? It's pretty common for us to interact with the same type of person as we are. If they're very analytical, that's the hardest for me because I'm not analytical. So they want to see data. They want to see comps. They want to see exact bids for contractors. They want to see everything on paper, the contract, whether it's a purchase contract or a lease or an option or whatever it is, has got to be perfect. If it's got a couple flaws, that could kill the deal. And you'll be able to tell an analytical person pretty quickly as well, based off of how they answer your questions.
Yeah, so
and
just
the other, go ahead.
Analytical person, like engineers are kind of commonly analytical. I'm a driver as well. So like my grandpa was like the ultimate driver. So when I would pick up the phone to call him, hey grandpa, I love you. How are you? It wasn't even like a hello. It was just, what's going on? What's up? What do you want? Yeah. And then there was no bye, love you, see you later. It was click. Like click. It would he and hung. Yep. So he was like extreme on it, but like you all have talked to people like this. Some are more extreme than others. There's different variations. So, okay, so what's the third? So analytical's kind of the engineer type. What's the third type?
The other one is a social or social conscious person. And you'll tell this person because they're going to talk about their house in a completely different way. They're going to tell you all the little things that they've done to the house. You know, we painted the bedroom blue because that was Bobby's room. And, you know, we put the landscaping in because we really wanted to make sure the neighborhood looked beautiful. These types of people, if you're going to turn the property into a rental, are not going to be happy you're turning their home into a rental house. Okay. Also notice I used those two words very specifically. Words matter. So when I'm buying a property from somebody, I'm buying their house. If I'm selling a property to somebody, I'm selling them a home. Okay. These things do make a difference. So if they're social.
So maybe we went into some of the same trainings, or I don't know. I've learned that from somewhere too. So it's home is that personal connection. A home is where people live. A house is you're kind of detaching them from that home. It's just a house. It's a piece of real estate. It's something that you can buy and sell.
Yep.
Okay.
So, you know, the social people, those conversations are going to usually be longer conversations. And you just want to, honestly, you can ask them one question about the house, and they'll probably take 5 to 10 minutes to answer that one question. And you're going to notice these things as you pay attention to it more and more. Okay. So again, a driver, straight to the point. And so let's say I send somebody a letter and they respond, and I get on the phone with them and they're like, what's your offer? That's a driver, right? They want to know, you know, you sent me a letter. You must know everything there is to know about this house. What's your offer? Guaranteed that's a driver. Okay. If the first thing they say is, you know, we've lived here for 30 years and we really love this neighborhood, and, you know, we're not sure if we want to sell yet, that's a social person. They're very much concerned about the property. And if they come in and say, well, you know, where are you coming up with your values? What kind of paperwork you use? I mean, analytical is probably the easiest one to identify, really, because they're just going to be asking a ton of boring questions, is what I consider them, you know. So figuring that out within the first 2 minutes, and then you cater your entire conversation to their personality type. Okay. So if I know that Jim's analytical, I'm going to try and provide as much accurate data as I possibly can. Hey, I did a comp search. I'm more than happy to send you my comps. You know, this is what's happened in your neighborhood over the last 90 days. This is exactly what I would spend on the property to rehab it, those types of things. If they're social, I'm going to really cater to that aspect. And I'm going to tell them, listen, your house has got some challenges. Your neighbors' houses are all updated. We really want to bring your house to an updated condition so it's a great home for the next owner, care about the neighborhood, those types of conversations. And, if they're a driver, I'm just going to tell them, listen, this is what we can do. I target a 20% profit margin in my business, and this is the offer that I'm willing to make on a cash basis. So there's a lot more to it, Jim, but obviously we don't have a whole lot of time. I've literally spent 14 hours in over 2 days teaching people how I do this. By the way, I'm not selling anything today, so I'm not pitching. But it's important for you guys that are listening to this to just start paying attention to a few of these things. And I'll give you some resources when we're done that can help you along with this too. But so that's the first thing I try and do in the first couple minutes, figure out personality type. The second thing I do is you should have an elevator pitch. Okay. So mine goes exactly like this. Jim, we buy houses in several different ways. All cash is not a problem, but that's typically going to be our lowest offer. If that doesn't work for you, we've bought properties where we've taken over loan payments. If you have debt on the property, we've leased property. We've put options in place to buy it at a future date. We've done joint ventures. So I tell you all this, Jim, just so you understand, there's more than one way we can help you today. Okay? So I can say that in under 30 seconds. And now I've opened up the conversation to a lot of different avenues. So people always ask me, how do you find out how much debt they have on the property? Well, in my elevator pitch, I mentioned we take over payments. And now when I go and ask them, by the way, Jim, do you have any debt on the property? That's exactly how I say it. I don't say, Jim, what do you owe on your property, or what's the mortgage amount? I say, Jim, do you have any debt on the property? In my elevator pitch, I've already alluded to the fact that we take over payments, or we can pay sellers over time. That's another one that I say it in that way. We can make payments to you over time, instead of saying, Jim, would you finance the property for me? Or how do you feel about seller financing? So the tone in your voice, the words you use, and how you say things are the key. Does that make sense?
So say that one more time, because I feel like this is important. So the tone, and say that again.
Well, the tone in your voice, the words you actually use, and when you say it and how you say it is the key. Okay. Did I lock up for a little bit, Jim?
No, you're good. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So when I'm interacting with somebody, I'm paying attention. If it's over the phone, I can hear the tone in their voice. So mirroring and matching does work. If somebody talks really fast, I talk really fast. If somebody talks slow, I slow it down. If I'm in person or I can see them, like right now, if I do this, that's what Jim's doing, right? It does work, and it's proven to work. Now, you don't do it so it's very obvious. I mean, if I'm going to, sit there and do everything Jim does and mirror him all the time, and pretty soon we're doing jumping jacks, that's obvious. But you'd be amazed at how much that works when you're in person or on the phone. So if you get somebody that is very emotional, okay, I deal a lot with estates. And I lost my father 10 years ago. So I truly know the feelings they're going through. So I can use that story about when, the struggles my mom went through with her house, and, what we went through with my father's passing. And if they start to tear up, I'm not going to intentionally make myself cry, but I'm not going to lie. I've teared up over the phone having some of these conversations, and I was real about it. I felt what they were feeling, and I wanted to help them. So
if you ever want to like test out what he's saying, I had a buddy who said, hey, this is really interesting. And he had me close his eyes So like everybody listening, close your eyes right now. Hey, this is Jim. How are you? What's going on? Or keep your eyes closed now. Now just watch what happens. Hey, it's Jim. How are you doing, man? You can literally tell the state of mind. And the only thing I did different in those two examples was I smiled. Like you can actually feel what they're feeling even on the phone. And it's a lot easier in person. I get that. But you can feel what they're feeling on the phone. So if in this example, if the person's literally on the phone crying because they're really upset because their dad passed away and now they have to try and sell the house that they grew up in, and Derek on the other line is like, the more upset they are, the more excited Derek's getting because he's like seeing dollars and cents. They can feel that, guys. So just be real careful with that.
Absolutely. And the best way to practice this stuff, Jim, is with your family, because you can mess with them. And if you're married, go mess with your spouse. Go start mimicking and following her tone. And the other one is if you're out shopping, you're at Walmart. This one, I didn't really believe in this for quite a long time until I really started to embrace it. Every time you go to a gas station or Walmart or wherever, right, the person that's at the checkout counter, they ask you, how you doing? Start using weird words, fantastic, stupendous, spectacular, right? And do it with a smile. Do it like Jim's laughing right now. Just do it like that. I'm awesome. This is the best day ever. I am so spectacular, right? Tremendous. And the majority of them will not say they're doing well either, but I guarantee you will brighten their day. And they're going to go home and they're going to talk to their spouse or their kids or their boyfriend, girlfriend. They're going to say, some jackass came through my line today and said he was stupendous. Right? And so the more often you do that, all of a sudden you actually start believing it. And this was the part I thought, yeah, this is a bunch of voodoo. It's true. If you go there and every day you use those types of words and you're upbeat about it, pretty soon you start feeling better. And when you lose millions of dollars and you got to get your head on straight, you start trying anything you can. And I mean, that's where this came from. Jim asked me earlier, how did you turn it around? You have got to change what's up here before you can help other people. You got to help yourself, right? I got off on a little tangent there, Jim, but it's true. You got to figure out how to get your headspace right. And
so how did you, like, when you're in the just a quick little, because we're kind of running long on time here, but
yeah,
we didn't really close the loop on your story earlier. So like you were able to finance the purchase of your son. I'm sorry.
No, it is what it is. That's a fact.
You had to finance it and you had all this debt. So and then you really started intimately studying how you communicate, how you negotiate and have these conversations. So how did you end up kind of digging yourself out of the hole, so to speak? Did you just do a bunch of deals? What happened?
Yeah. So I was working a full-time job and then running a full-time flipping business, and it took years, but we got everybody, paid back and got everything made whole. And then I met my current business partner about 9 years ago, and we've been business partners for 8.5 years. And his name is Jeff. And what Jeff had was exactly the opposite, or what his expertise is the exact opposite of mine, which was great. Plus, he lives about 75 miles away from me. And from a business partner standpoint, it's what I needed at the time, because I had a previous business partner and that relationship ended terribly. And we were twins. We were really good at the same types of stuff. We lived in the same town. We were in each other's back pocket all the time, and it ended horribly. So when I met Jeff, he had already been investing and flipping and as was a lender. And he started about 2 years after I did, so 2004, 2005. But he never, ever, ever used a bank to finance any investment property in his entire life. And it was a mindset shift for me, because I was, oh my God, if I can't use banks, how am I ever going to do this? So as we started, flipping together, and then over the last 8 years, we organically grew our lending business. In the last 2 years, we consciously took it to a new level. It was the joint effort and the joint goals of ourselves, and never quitting and never giving up. So the way our business is structured now is I do most of the in-person, negotiating, dealing with buying, selling, rehabbing, and Jeff runs the back end, and he heads up our lending business. So for the most part, there's been hiccups, of course, but the last 8 years has been steady increase in our business and in our income.
So if I can add something here, guys, like when you're hiring someone, when you're doing a business partner, when
Careful, Jim.
but when you're, oh boy. So when you're potentially gonna get a business partner, the first thing that everybody wants to do is do I like them or not because they're like me? Jeff mentioned it earlier. I just typically like other drivers better because that's how I am. And really the best practice, the best business uses is there a synergy in our skill sets? Are we different enough to make 1 + 1 = 3? Is this person that we're hiring, yes, we want to like them, yes, we want to be friends with them, but are they wired to fit within the role that is needed to be successful? Like if you're going to put Derek or I in a transaction coordinator role, oh my goodness, we're not going to be great transaction coordinators. We're going to be terrible, detail oriented, right? So that's really important to have an awareness of that. I've done the same thing. I've put people in the wrong seats of the bus because I liked them. They were kind of like me. They thought like me, but so absolutely. I mean, is there anything else? So we got a little bit more time here, guys. If anyone wants to open up any sort of questions, Derek is an expert at this, guys, on his negotiation process. Please feel free to chat away. And my biggest, so we really talked kind of intensely about the phone call here. Why don't we just carry on with that rather than kind of go into the homeowner appointment because of time constraints here. But
yeah, it goes by quick, doesn't it, Jim?
Yeah, unbelievable. I think Derek and I could probably do this for like 8 hours in a row, by the way. I would have such a blast every time I do, man. So let's kind of finish up on the on this. So you kind of mirror them, you match them, the conversations, hey, we have multiple options, and you start talking about that. And then like let's talk about the close of the phone call. So like, are you making it on the phone, or like how are you handling that?
Yeah, and I want to bring one other thing up first, Jim, and then I'll segue into the close. The other thing that I really found, or probably the most valuable thing I found, is called framing. And framing is, if you look at every social interaction through a picture frame, okay, there's one person controlling that interaction, and there's an alpha and there's a beta. Whether you like it or not, every social interaction has an alpha and a beta. Okay, so quick example: if you get pulled over for speeding, and a police officer walks up to your window, who's in control of that interaction? There's almost nothing you can do to flip the control of that interaction. That police officer is going to hand you a ticket or a warning, and you're going to say, thank you very much, whether you like it or not. So when you learn what's called frame control, and you can flip the frame anytime you want, you literally can guide a conversation to whatever destination you want it to be. So one of my favorite things, and I will give you guys a resource to learn this, but one of my favorite things is when I get somebody who wears a suit and tie, no offense to anybody that wears suits and ties, but I don't own a tie, but they wear a suit and tie, and let's just say they're a banker and they're sitting on their side of the desk. Notice this: when you go to a bank, their chair is usually higher than yours. That's intentional. They want you to be lower and seem like you're less important, okay? So I'll walk into that interaction and they're peacocking right away. And I'll say, I really love your suit. mine's at the dry cleaner, so I just wore this shitty sweatshirt. Okay. I'll literally say it just that way. What did that just do? It just told him, I don't give a shit about your suit. It doesn't impress me. And it's a psychology. I can't explain it in 5 minutes, so I'm not going to try, but it's a psychology. And when you learn how to do it, here's another one. I don't use this often, and you've got to be very, very kind of ballsy to do this. No offense, but I will deliberately say somebody's name wrong if they start bulldozing my conversation. If Jim kept going and he's just talking over me, I would do it casually, and I'd be like, well, John, I really do want to buy this house, but I don't know if the numbers are going to work. And he's like, my name's Jim. Oh, I'm sorry. What did I call you? That just set him on his ass. It took him out of that position of superiority because I didn't even remember his name. I love doing that to people that are really cocky. It's fun. And I might not even be trying to buy or sell anything from. I mean, it might be just a social interaction with an attorney or somebody that I don't like, because I don't like most attorneys. So I'll just say their name wrong, right? So anyways.
All right, so if you want to get on Derek's good side, don't wear a tie and don't be an attorney. Okay. Sorry.
Much. But I wanted to teach you guys that real quick, and I'll give you that source at the end. But the close, I do a series of different closes. I don't like the way that a lot of sales books kind of list them out and say, well, you should do this one, and this one, because they're very used car salesman type closes. There's trial closes. There's, if I can do this, would you be willing to do that? That gets way overused. But the takeaway, if used properly, is probably my favorite close. Meaning, Jim, I'm going to buy your house from you. My cash offer's $100,000. If you're willing to take payments over time, I could likely get you about $110,000. But I just don't know if this is the right deal for you. I mean, I'm probably not your best option. Maybe you should just list it with a realtor. But if you like my offer, I'm more than willing to move forward. It's a takeaway close. It's, again, tone, how you say it, and when you say it are the most important parts of that close. That's one of them I use a lot. The other one is just kind of a take it or leave it. This is the best I can do. I hope this works for you. If it doesn't, I completely understand. And guess what? I've been in this business for 16, 17 years. I'm not going anywhere. So go ahead and try it with the realtor. And if it doesn't work out, call me back, which is just the opposite of what most people are taught. Most people are taught to, here's my offer. It's good for 24 hours. Take it or leave it. If it doesn't work, don't call me. And and that does vary depending on how much competition you have in your market, of course. But those are a couple of my favorites. There's about 50 different ways that you can close.
And you're doing it and you're, because of the 200-mile distance, doing it on the phone. Would you, if you lived in a city like St. Louis or a bigger city that you could get everywhere pretty much in 30 minutes, do you think you'd be
face-to-face?
Yeah, for sure we do on face-to-face. We actually, what we personally do is we do face-to-faces as well. I think it's a lot more intimate. It's a lot harder to keep and stay a rapport on the phone. So to do it the way Derek's doing is a necessity based on where you live. But
if you can get good on the phone, Jim, face-to-face is super easy, right? So, and the thing is, you can practice this, like I said earlier, with every interaction every day. Like next time you go to a hotel, see if you can get a free upgrade, right? Just play around with this kind of stuff. If you're just going to an airline and you're flying somewhere, see if you can get an upgrade. Play with people that way, where there's nothing you can lose, and that'll make your negotiating get better and better. But consciously think about everything you do, everything you say, everything they do, and everything they say, and you'll start to notice patterns, because you don't want to do it how I do it. it's got to be natural for you. Whatever your natural tendencies are, that's what you grow. That's what you get better at.
So, so we had a couple of questions come through. I asked for questions and then we started talking and I stopped looking. Sorry, guys. So Bonnie just asked, what if they do the same things that you do? Oh, shoot. That was like 3 minutes ago. Bonnie, if you can add in on the chat, like what we were talking about, that'd be helpful. So Brian says, in your early days, have you ever dealt with a seller where your offer was much lower than asking, and what was the outcome?
Yeah, well, that's not in my early days. That happens every day. So my offers are typically much lower than what they're asking, and the reality is, it depends on what their goals are, right? If their goals are to, well, I closed the deal yesterday. We took possession of a property today. I'll just talk about this one real quick, and I'll try and segue back to it. I made an offer to a guy. The after repair value on the house is $220,000. My cash offer was $130,000. It needed about a $20,000 rehab, and he's moving to South Dakota from Wisconsin. He literally packed up his stuff yesterday and left. And my cash offer was not going to be enough for him. He wanted $150,000 no matter what. And I said, well, at this point, and he was a driver. Okay, it was just straight to the point. Give me what you can. I said, well, if my cash offer doesn't work, we could look at either doing, payments over time. He does have debt. He has about $100,000 worth of debt. And I said, or we could joint venture, which I don't like doing. Since you own the house, I could bring the rehab money, rehab the house, and we could sell it, but I don't like doing that. Or I could, option the property from you, and you give me 6 months. I will give you $150,000, and my profit is whatever I can sell the property for over and above that. And that's the one he chose. So, and I had absolutely $0 up front in option consideration. Instead of fully rehabbing the house, we are just going to clean it up, do about $2,000 worth of minor repairs and little painting. And that house is going to go on the market for $199,900 as is, and likely sell within a month.
I love that, especially for hotels like that.
Right. So the point of that, though, is to answer that question more directly, having more options than just a cash offer is important, because most of our competition out there is take it or leave it. This is my cash offer. And guys, if you're making a cash offer and you say, I can pay all cash and close quick, don't say I can close quick until you find out if they want to close quick. I've done deals where I signed a contract and we didn't close for 6 months because that's what they needed. Like, find out what they need, and then you don't find good deals. You create good deals, and you create those good deals by having conversations and solving people's real estate problems. That's all it is. This guy's biggest pain point was he did not want to deal with realtors, and he didn't want to have to do any repairs to get his house to qualify for a mortgage or a loan like FHA, and he wanted to leave on a specific date, October 6th. I got him everything that he was trying to accomplish. And my cost is $225 a month for the next 6 months, plus whatever I stick in the property. I'll have $3,000 in that property and will likely make 30 to 40.
Hey, Derek, I got something for you. If you really don't like the JV structure, have you ever thought about just canning it and just not offering that for people?
I only brought it up in that conversation because he had asked about it. Otherwise, I would not bring that up. He specifically asked, well, I already own the house. What if we did some kind of a deal where you fix it up and sell it? Otherwise, no, I would not bring that up typically.
Okay, good. I'm glad I clarified that. So then, okay, so when we were talking before about framing and some of these conversation techniques, the question that came in was, what if they do the same things that you're doing when you're trying to kind of be the one in control of the frame? And
that just becomes part of the game. You just keep you keep stacking over the top of each other. And guys, go and get the book written by Oren Klaff, Oren, and then Klaff, Klaff, I believe it is, called Pitch Anything. And that book, have you listened to that, Jim?
I've studied it in depth, and I was trying to remember the name of it. I was like, Oren. So I'm not surprised that you're recommending this because he explains the frame incredibly well in that book.
That's the best source I've ever found to explain frame control. And so I've probably listened to that book because I do audiobooks. Because my parents didn't teach me how to read, but well, actually I just don't have time. But I've probably listened to that book 50 times, and it's just something that I play in the background or put my earbuds in when I'm doing something else. And you guys keep refreshing yourself with that kind of information, right? Like another one was just recently released, The Wolf of Wall Street, and I can't remember the guy's name now. I'm drawing a blank, but they made a movie about him that DiCaprio played, and it was kind of a interesting movie. But the book was really good on how he negotiates, and now he's banned from ever being in the stock market again. So he literally goes around the world teaching people how to pitch and sell. But just Google Wolf of Wall Street or go on Audible. That was another good one I listened to recently.
Have you read Never Split the Difference?
Oh yeah, I love Never Split the Difference.
That's a fantastic one as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really what it is, guys, is you go out and find, I'd probably have 25 books if I went into my Audible account. And you may only pick up one or two things from each book that fit your style, right? But that's where you build it from, is these little things that I know that I'm good at. I'm going to build my own style. And that's what I'm going to constantly be working on. And it's not sexy, it's not exciting, but it's very, very, very beneficial when you can literally steer any conversation the way you want it to go. Jim, I didn't tell you this, but myself, my business partner, my wife, and his wife, we are taking over a cruise that friends of ours, it's an investor cruise, networking and educational cruise that our friends have been putting on for 8 years. They recently retired from it. I had every intention from several years ago to take over that cruise. I've never told Bill Cook, but I led Bill down a path. 3 years ago, he invited myself and my business partner to be speakers on the cruise. And then every year since then, we've done TED Talks or we've done some little pieces of it. I knew 3 years ago I wanted to take over this cruise. And when he retired the cruise in March and asked us to take it over, we slow played him and said no until June. I've never admitted that to anyone anywhere. So now it's out in public.
Bill, this is being recorded, right?
I don't care because Bill wouldn't care. Oh. He literally wouldn't. That's the thing about negotiating. I knew the end result way ahead of time. And it doesn't hurt him in any way, shape, or form because he wanted us to take it over. And now we have. So have the end goal in mind and then work towards it. It might not be a 30-minute conversation. It might be 3 years.
Do you all have a website on the cruise if anybody's interested in learning more about it?
Yeah, it's called the Generations of Wealth Voyage, and the website is GOWvoyage.com.
Guys, for this particular show, go to doorstodeals.com/020. Again, that's doorstodeals.com/020. Go out, live your purpose, and above all else, go after your dreams. Take care till next time. Thanks for tuning into this show. For more episodes and resources that will unlock Doors to Deals, check out our website, doorstodeals.com.